social media is a great way. That's the best part about social media in my mind is that I can put it out there. Somebody else is doing it for me anyway. And I'm not in my mind bragging. I'm letting the people know what's going on. And if they have something, they're going to refer me. I love those. I don't know if you have in your community, but we have a good, bad, and ugly on Facebook for the community. Going to do something different today. I'm just going to be me. No script. Just, I think I mentioned last episode, I got a guy that's holding me responsible, one of my coaches. And I've been journaling. Going to tell you what I've learned the last quarter, almost since last January, but not the last quarter really. What I've learned or what I've experienced. So I tried to sum it up. And basically it's, you have to grow as your business grows. Nothing static. Nothing works the same as you get bigger. What do you mean? Well, I said, well, I got to thinking, when I started out building houses, or actually becoming even a custom home builder, I estimated jobs. I was doing it myself actually, and I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I had some background in estimating, but estimating is pretty common. You just figure out the cost, put a markup on it, and go on. Well, that's true, but if you don't have a good system, it's very time consuming. If you don't have a way to type it up or so forth. So then I got to think, well, that's how I first started. And then I evolved into having somebody help me. And that went well until we got so busy that they couldn't keep up. And I said keep up, they had other things on their mind. They had other things to do. So that wasn't working. So I had to find a way that I'm getting busier. People are noticing who we are. We're growing. Well, how'd that mean? So the next step was I actually got a shared estimator. We were going to town. It was a whole lot faster than the one before. Idea, this was great. We were going to town. And I mentioned about advertising, that you never stop advertising because you got to have that pipeline always full of sales. And this quarter, we have been the busiest we've ever been. Even the estimator, even doing a full-time estimator isn't enough, which is great for sales. But if you're not getting back to them fast enough, that ain't helping me out at all. So without sales, there's no growth. We talked about that before. And I've been looking for a software. And I finally found one that's going to suit my needs. And I've looked at a dozen. None of them have really kind of met the needs where we're at today. Solving the problems that I needed it to have. And even what I'm doing now is I'm offsetting some of that by helping my people estimate. Well, that's not a good use of my time, but I know sales is important, so I had to do it. But this software is phenomenal as far as doing estimating. I have a quote to a person the same day with pictures of what they're going to get. Now, it is a hefty investment, and that's okay. I've come to, money is very important, yes, but sometimes we step over dimes to get to the pennies. You follow me? Yeah, get the chunk. But the time that you save with this software, the potential growth in sales by somebody getting a price that same day. Are you ready, sir, to move forward? Right now we got a goal of 7 days or less, but hell, it might be 7 hours or less. You're going to have a quote. It's that good. Also on that journey of looking at what happened the last quarter, I've got some great crews. They can only do so much too. And you battle that thing about overtime versus more people. And there's a lot of things to look at there. I'm not downplaying either one. Now, my decision is we're going to start on the crew in this case, but I've got the sales. And when I was dragging my feet, and sometimes you just got to listen to people who you talk to, and listening gives you ideas that you probably didn't come up with before. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and this is where it comes up. I was talking to him, and he said something. it was just it wasn't even the conversation we were talking about, but he said it. I didn't interrupt him, but it dinged something in my head. It's like, man, I am missing some opportunity here. So we went ahead and had our meeting. I didn't even ask him that same day, but he just kept pecking at me. He's like, man, here's your opportunity. Here's how you can get a crew and pay for them. So I called him back the next day. I said, hey, yesterday you said, he said, yeah, I did. I said, do you have anybody? He goes, well, I've got a few, but I could use more. I said, well, here's what I'm planning. Could you help me with that? Fill the hours. He goes, man, I got so much work. You don't have to worry about not having jobs for your guys. All right. He goes, I'm going on vacation next week. He said, I'm gonna come back. I said, okay. This was last week he came back, and I went up there, sat down with him, and I pulled the trigger. We're hiring more people. That's good for the economy, good for our people, good for families, whatever, however you want to look at that. But I realized that you got to listen. I used to be a person that didn't talk a lot. Now, here I got a podcast. But what I mean by that is I never shared let's say, maybe my emotions. I was a personal person. Everything was private. And I've learned over the years that you got to talk. Now, maybe you can kind of be wary of what you say, but I was always taught not to brag. And I don't want to brag, but you got to at least let people know what you're doing. they, and I've gotten better at that. And sometimes it's even still hard for me, but I see people who talk all the time. And you ever heard of people fall into the pile of shit and come smell out like a rose? Those are the type of people do that. You got to go out and you got to tell people what you're doing. You got to express yourself, share it. Social media is a great way. That's the best part about social media in my mind is that I can put it out there. Somebody else is doing it for me anyway. And I'm not in my mind bragging. I'm letting the people know what's going on. And if they have something, they're going to refer me. I love those. I don't know if you have in your community, but we have a good, bad, and ugly on Facebook for the community. And we're part of several communities. And people say, hey, I need a name of a good contractor. And somebody put your name out there to tag you. I'm telling you, you can't be everywhere at all times. But the more you're visible, the more people will think about you. They'll want to help you. They like following along with you. That's helped improve my sales. That's allowed me to improve our crews and so forth. Also, the last quarter, I've read this book before, but I started reading it again, and that's 10X by Dan Sullivan. He also wrote the book Who Not How, and there was years where I always asked myself, how am I going to do this? How can I make this happen? His point is, you can't do it all. Somebody else can, and find the who's going to do that for you. And I've come to take that to heart. I've hired, crews, internal people. Even when I grew my crews, I was doing the paperwork myself. That's not good use of your time. So I've hired others to do my bookkeeping, manage the phone, manage the office, invoicing, all that good stuff. Matter of fact, that's how I decided to grow one day. I was reading one book and I said, you got to be real with yourself. You can't do everything. I have a bad habit of putting too many irons in the fire, as my wife says, and I'm focusing very diligently on just focusing on 3 irons right now. That doesn't mean that the occasional little ember comes up here and there with other ideas. And I help with the community, I help with church and so forth. But as far as my professional money making, I'm focused on 3 right now. Now, my intentions are to turn those all over and go find some more. But right now, I just got to get those 3 up and running very efficiently. And it's not Chris going to have to do that. Chris going to have to find the people to help him do that. And that's the who. The 10X part of that book that comes later. Second, the follow-up to the Who Not How book is 10X. And his point is that doubling is doing 10 times is just as much effort as doing double what you're wanting. And I need to get into that, read the book. I'll make sure we'll put a link in below. But 10X, and I recommend Who Not How first. Might get you in the old, get your mind set and kind of twirling towards that. Lastly, what I've been focusing on last quarter is different strategies. And I guess I should have started out with strategies first. Now I think about it, because strategies have all these other things that I've talked about. Different strategies of increasing your sales, increasing your estimating speed. Where's the bottleneck? The bottleneck for me right now is just getting quotes out. And then the other bottleneck, once I get those quotes out and those people say yes, it's the crews getting that work done. How this all came about was a couple of different people have asked, how busy are you? Well, we're busy. We're booked out through fall. And that's the truth. And I don't want to wait that long. It's like, okay, well, how are we going to make that happen? That's where I got in a conversation with that gentleman on the phone. But if if you're looking for a contractor and they're not busy, then they're probably not very good for some reason. Point being is that the good ones are busy, so we have to figure out ways to accommodate those who can't wait. And then sometimes you got to tell those people that maybe they're not the right people for you. They don't understand and they think they're number one. And not that nobody's number one, don't get me wrong. In my mind, all my clients are equal, but you got to be patient and you want a good job done. We don't want to cut corners, then work with me. That being said, how have you grown this year? Well, look back to January if you want. Think about where you're at, where you're going to be. Are you meeting your goals that you set in January? December is not really that far off. Hell, Christmas is just around the corner as I sit in 96-degree heat outside. But it is. Time flies. My grandma said, the older I get, the time flies more. And that's the truth. So we got about 6 more months left to the end of the year. Sit back, evaluate where you're at, ponder, journal, and strategize. That's all I can tell you, man. It's been a different type of episode today. It's just me talking, but that's the one to share that with you. And you guys, I'll see you again next week. Tuesdays when our solo episodes go. And this is the Hard Hat CEO. Thank you.